Black Myth Wukong has some of the most satisfying combat animations and boss encounters in modern action games. But after I've played for around 50 hours, one thing becomes clear. Wukong's combat feels amazing, but it's missing a few key systems that could have made it truly legendary. Right now the combat excels at spectacle, fluid dodging and build customization, but it lacks the mechanical depth and clarity that defines the greatest combat systems ever made, like Sekiro, Lies of P or even Wuchang Fallen Feathers. So the real question becomes, why does Wukong feel incredible moment to moment, yet still falls short of the best combat systems in gaming? The answer comes down to three missing ingredients: a deeper defensive system, more expressive combo mechanics, and combat that rewards mastery rather than repetition. And once you see these gaps, it becomes obvious how close Wukong was to achieving true combat perfection. The biggest thing missing from Wukong combat is a dedicated parry mechanic. If you look at the most praised melee combat systems in gaming history, they all share one defining feature: a powerful defensive mechanic that turns enemy attack into opportunities. Sekiro has deflects, Lies of P has perfect parries, Wuchang has perfect dash mechanics and even parry with some weapons. These systems transform defensive into offensive. Instead of simply avoiding damage, players are encouraged to engage directly with enemy attacks, and that creates something magical. Combat becomes less about survival and more about rhythm. Combat becomes something like dancing with enemies, because every clash of sword becomes part of a written game. Attack, deflect, counter, attack again. Wukong, by comparison, relies primarily on dodging and spacing. And while the dodge feels responsive and satisfying, it doesn't carry the same depth. Dodging resets the fight, and parrying advances the fight. This difference changes everything. Without a strong parry mechanic, many encounters in Wukong become reactive rather than interactive. You are avoiding danger instead of controlling it. And that is why the combat feels good, but not quite next level. Wukong's combat also lacks the combat depth that makes action games endlessly replayable. Wukong's attacks chains are rather simple. Most fights rely on variations of light attack, heavy attack, charge attack, and ability usage. This works perfectly for accessibility and makes the game easy to pick up, but the trade-off is the reduced player expression. In games like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden or even Ghost of Tsushima, players can chain together dozens of different attack routes. Launch enemies, juggle them, cancel animations, switch weapon mid-combo, etc. and create completely unique fighting styles. That is why those games remain for even after hundreds of hours, because mastery unlocks creativity. Wukong, however, focuses more on build customization than mechanical expression. You can change abilities, equip different spirits, modify spells, but moment-to-moment combat still revolves around the same core attack pattern, and once we learn the optimal rhythm, it can start to feel repetitive. This doesn't make the combat bad, in fact it's still extremely fun. But compared to the insane combat depth of the genre's best combat system, Wukong's mechanics feels a little restrained. Another subtle issue comes from how the Black Myth Wukong rewards player skill. In many legendary action games, mastering the combat system unlocks new strategic options. In Sekiro, perfect deflects break enemy posture. Devil May Cry skilled players maintain high style ranking and extend combos indefinitely. These systems rewards precision and aggression. Wukong, on the other hand, rewards patience and caution. Boss fights frequently follow this pattern: wait for attack, dodge, counterattack, repeat. This loop works and it can be thrilling, but it doesn't evolve as dramatically with skill. A beginner and the expert may approach the fight in very similar ways. The expert just executes it more efficiently. Compare that to Lies of P. Once a player truly masters the combat system, fights change completely. They stop reacting to enemies and start dominating them. The player controls the rhythm. Wukong never quite reaches that level of mechanical control. And that is why some players feel the combat is spectacular, but not transformative. Ironically, Black Myth Wukong actually has a lot of customization. Players can experiment with different spells, transformations and spirit abilities. But during actual combat, many players gravitate toward the same strategy I've mentioned before. Dodge, wait for opening, upload damage, reset, repeat. It's a kind of a see-through simulator, constantly waiting for enemy animations to finish before responding. Now, to be fair, this isn't entirely a flaw. Many action games rely on similar patterns, but the best combat system encourages multiple viable approaches. Aggressive play, defensive play, technical play, stylish play. In Wukong, these one blur together, which means fights look incredible, but often feel similar across different players. Despite all this criticism, it's important to say something clearly. Black Myth Wukong still has fantastic combat. The animation quality is phenomenal. Boss design is memorable. Abilities feel powerful and cinematic, and the game captures the mythological fantasy of the Monkey King beautifully. The reason I criticize the combat so heavily is actually a compliment, because the system is so close to being one of the greatest ever made. Just add a deeper parry mechanic, expand combo expression, reward mastery more aggressively, and suddenly the entire system could evolve into something truly legendary. It's the difference between great combat and timeless combat. Because I feel like today I don't just want flashy combat, I want systems that reward mastery, combat that involves as skill improves, combat that feels different after 10 hours, and again after 100 hours. Wukong delivers spectacle, it delivers fun, but it stops just short of delivering the deeper mechanic magic seen in the greatest action games ever made. And that is why the conversation around Black Myth Wukong combat is important. Because when a game gets this close to greatness, I can't help imagining how incredible it could have been. Thanks for watching, hit that like button, subscribe for more Black Myth Wukong lore and guides videos, The Destined One.